40 newly released UFO files, 14 documents, 19 videos, 4 audio recordings, 3 images. They span decades of military reports, intelligence records, and unexplained encounters. Some appear ordinary once examined closely, others contain details that are much harder to dismiss. But the real question is not whether every object came from another world. It is why, after all these years, so many of these incidents still do not have a definitive answer. July 2026 marked the 4th public release in the US government's disclosure program. Dozens of files, documents, videos, and audio recordings were brought into the light. These are official records from trained observers, pilots, radar operators, and intelligence officers. But in these files, unidentified means insufficient data for a definitive conclusion. It is a technical term, not a confession of extraterrestrial contact. Redactions remove context, leaving us to analyze a puzzle with missing pieces. To understand what matters, the files must be separated: the explained, the unresolved, and the genuinely strange. This is a forensic process, letting the data speak for itself. So, what is actually inside these declassified files? The contents fall into several categories: written incident reports, infrared video, and pilot audio. Analysts cross-reference everything, citing reports with flight schedules, satellite trajectories, and meteorological charts. Often the explanation is prosaic: Venus, weather balloons, or even advanced classified American technology. But after all these filters are applied, a small percentage of cases remain. The government labels these cases unresolved, not a confirmation of the extraordinary, but an admission that the data is too poor to identify a known object or confirm an unknown one. One report, however, stood out. It came from an aviator with nearly 3 decades of experience, and it could not be easily dismissed. The file states the witness was a military aviator with nearly 30 years in the air, a career of checklists, discipline, and repetition. This wasn't a novice, prone to misidentification. This was a seasoned professional, someone whose entire career was built on interpreting the sky with unwavering precision. We're talking about thousands of flight hours logged across multiple airframes in every conceivable condition, from routine patrols to high-stakes operational sorties. Their mind is a finely tuned instrument, calibrated to the predictable rhythms of flight. For an aviator of this caliber, the cockpit is an extension of their own senses. Trained eyes catch patterns and departures from those patterns. It's an instinct honed over decades, a subconscious recognition that something is out of place long before the conscious mind can articulate why. Every flicker of light, every radar return, is cross-referenced against a vast internal library of known phenomena. According to the report, the encounter occurred inside controlled airspace, with standard communications in place. This is a critical detail. This wasn't the empty, unknown expanse of the open ocean. It was a managed, monitored sector. Air traffic control was active, and all known traffic was accounted for. The witness reported a compact light source that held position against the wind, then accelerated without an obvious control surface. The object's behavior defied conventional physics. It remained stationary despite significant winds aloft, a feat that would require immense energy, before moving in a way that suggested a propulsion system beyond anything in the public domain. No wings, no rotors, no heat plume. Sensors offered little clarity, a faint return, no precise range. The aircraft's sophisticated sensor suite, designed to track advanced adversaries, struggled to lock on. The data was intermittent, inconclusive. It was there, but it wasn't. This ambiguity itself was a data point. The description was unusual and unusually direct. The pilot's report was devoid of speculation, focusing only on observed performance characteristics. It was the cold, factual language of a test pilot, not a storyteller. But expertise is not immunity from error. The investigative process demands skepticism. Every alternative, no matter how mundane, must be rigorously examined before considering the extraordinary. At high speed, parallax can create the illusion of sudden motion. A distant stationary object can appear to move erratically against a closer background, like clouds or terrain. It's a well-documented perceptual trap. At distance, a change in lighting can look like a change in direction. A simple reflection off a weather balloon or a distant commercial aircraft can momentarily flare, tricking the eye into perceiving acceleration. Under stress or low visibility, even stable systems can mislead the operator. Could atmospheric conditions like temperature inversions have distorted the radar return? Could a known system have malfunctioned in an undocumented way? These are the questions investigators are trained to ask. In the end, the file concludes with caution. Investigators could not determine the object with the available information. After exhausting all conventional explanations, equipment malfunction, meteorological phenomena, known aircraft, the event remained unclassified. The data was too sparse, the observation too strange. The report was filed away, another piece of an ever-expanding puzzle. A credible report from a credible observer, ending not with an answer, but with a carefully worded question mark. This pattern is not new. Early military investigations collected sightings and attempted correlations with known aircraft and celestial events. In the late 1940s, bright green fireballs sparked concern near sensitive sites. The phenomenon raised questions, from meteors to atmospheric plasma, and national security implications if misidentified. Reports around strategic and nuclear locations were treated seriously, regardless of any extraterrestrial interpretation. The Cold War lens reframed unknowns as potential reconnaissance or test articles. Possible explanations were weighed: foreign reconnaissance, experimental aircraft, balloons. Public attention surged, then faded, but the operational question remained. How do you classify an unknown with partial data? Investigators considered meteors, atmospheric plasma, sensor artifacts, and misidentification. The language changed over the decades, from flying saucers to UFOs to UAP. But the central problem never disappeared. How do you identify something when the available data is incomplete? Start with basics: compression, glare, parallax, stabilization, and distance. Compression can invent shapes that are not there. Infrared glare exaggerates size and hides structure. Parallax makes stationary or slow objects seem to dart. Stabilization can reveal whether the motion is real or camera-induced. Without range, apparent speed is a guess. Double the distance assumption, and you can double the inferred velocity. Near-field objects can mimic high-speed transits. Focus and aperture can turn small into strange. Some footage matches winds aloft and known launch windows, balloons. Others align with drone flight envelopes and lighting, and some remain unresolved because key measurements, distance, wind, and triangulation were never captured. Question, test, answer, and a new unanswered question. That is the rhythm of this archive. Several forces likely converged: transparency initiatives, legal requirements, and public interest. Public hearings elevated expectations, and archives had to respond. Institutionally, decades of fragmented records are being organized, imperfectly, but more visibly. Transparency advocates see progress, believers see partial disclosure, skeptics see low-quality material, researchers see a data problem that better collection could solve. What the release does not show is a coordinated proof of anything extraordinary. It does show a bureaucracy trying to standardize reporting and retain records. The most important detail is not a single dramatic image. It is a repeated pattern: credible observers, incomplete sensor data, fragmented records, and cases that span decades. That pattern creates two truths. Many UAP reports probably have ordinary explanations. Some remain unresolved because the evidence is genuinely inadequate. Uncertainty is the center of the story, not a flaw in it. The new files do not prove that extraterrestrial craft have entered Earth's atmosphere. But they do prove something less sensational, and perhaps more important. For decades, military personnel, intelligence agencies, scientists and civilians have reported objects they could not immediately identify. Some were later explained, some were probably misunderstood, and some remain suspended between incomplete evidence and unanswered questions. The Pentagon has opened another section of the archive. What it has not opened is a final answer. So when you look at these records, what do you see? Evidence of something extraordinary, a catalogue of human error and imperfect sensors, or a mystery that has not yet been measured correctly? The files are public now. The conclusion is still yours.